right, welcome back into the limited series podcast on marketing tips and building out your startup dental practice. And we're going to talk a little bit about building your brand and why it's important to build your brand now and worry about marketing later. If you haven't downloaded the workbook, go do that now. Go into the show notes, or you can go to venturepractices.com, go into the startups. There'll be a link there. But I want you to go ahead and download that workbook, because that is where you can kind of go along with this. This is going to be particular to you, right? This isn't just generic things. I want you to be thinking about this for you. So as we talk through build your brand now and worry about marketing later, I want to go back and reiterate. Many people confuse branding as your name, your color, your logos, etc. That's more your brand identity. Branding is the most crucial element in the success of your practice. Building value in your brand is incredibly important. But let's start by understanding what building a leadership brand means. So a little bit about my background. I was a consumer behavior major in college, went and worked and sold advertising and TV. Back in 2010, kind of got into marketing with dental practices. This was before, Google and social media had really picked up steam. But we started looking at marketing practices. It was easier back then. But as time went on, so did consumer behavior. And we're just in this era now where branding is so important, because branding at its core is how you make people feel. And so when we talk about leadership branding and we go through our leadership branding workshops, what we're talking about here is you as the leader are creating this vision, whether that's 5-year vision, 1-year vision, 90-day, whatever that is. And that vision drives your culture. And I'll talk a little bit more about culture later, but to simplify culture down, culture is just the look, act, and feel of your practice. The look, act, and feel of your practice. The culture is your internal branding that supports your consumer branding, right? If your team doesn't have a great culture, they don't work well together, they seem disconnected or unaligned with your vision or just the practice itself. So this is where you need to start telling your story. Don't concern yourself with your services just yet. The services you're going to provide. I mean, a dentist, unfortunately, is a dentist, right? They're a service provider, but I want you to stand out. I want you to be 5 Mile famous. It doesn't matter how many other dentists are in your area. You're going to come in and be the one that's known for something great. So thinking about services, they're basically just a listing of the things you do. Okay. We do, preventative care, emergencies. We do implants. We do, all these different things. But consumers care more about the people that are doing the work than the services themselves. So we want to push our clients to show your personality first, then show your credibility and authority. I'm not saying those things aren't important, and I'm not saying the services you provide aren't important. I'm just saying they need to connect with you and your staff first if you want them to be somebody that engages with you and comes back in treatment plans and writes reviews and gives you referrals on the mommy groups. Okay, so think about what that leadership brand is going to be. So I'm going to give you 2 really bad analogies. I'd appreciate if anybody wants to put some comments below and might have some better ones, but hopefully they will help your mindset. I mean, a lot of this, what we're going to talk about through this limited series podcast, is your mindset, but I want you to start separating branding from marketing. So the first one I call the butterfly effect, not the one where you're thinking of where you go back in time, step on a bug, and drastically alter the future. I'm talking about the difference between catching a butterfly or attracting a butterfly. And again, I told you I was going to use a bad analogy, but I feel this is stuck a couple of times, so I'm going to use it anyway. So marketing would be the equivalent of catching a butterfly. You grab a butterfly net, you head out to catch some butterflies. You can't find them and skillfully catch them. It can be frustrating because you're going to catch very few, may not even be the ones you want. Then you decide, I'm going to hire someone that specializes in catching butterflies and use their proven strategy that has helped thousands of people catch butterflies. And if they don't catch any, you don't pay. No contracts, no hassles. But then you pretty much get no results. So this kind of has limited success, right? So you hire different people with different ways of, quote, catching butterflies. But they don't know how to connect to the butterflies in your area and have limited success, and still somehow you've paid a lot of money to do that. So that's more how marketing works. You're just going out there and getting everybody that you can and grabbing every source you can to get those butterflies. Now, this doesn't mean marketing is bad, and you are going to have to do it in the beginning. It just means for it to be successful, you've got to establish a brand first. So, in my terrible butterfly analogy, branding is more about attracting the butterflies, not going to catch them at all. So instead of grabbing a net and going to catch them, this means you actually have to plant a garden. And that garden will be full of flowers that will attract those butterflies. So it's best to start thinking about who is my favorite butterfly, or what is my favorite butterfly? And think about only planting the flowers that attract them. So let's say you're on the East Coast and you prefer yellow butterflies. Then you would have to plant, and I did have to Google this, an Eastern Joe Pye. Okay, that's apparently a type of plant. So it's native to the area. It'll attract yellow butterflies because that's what you want. They tend to fly higher, so they spend more money apparently. Most people make the mistake of just trying to attract a lot of butterflies to that garden. Don't do that. Let the yellow ones come in, and then let them kind of go back and tell their community so they can attract more yellow butterflies. And eventually you'll attract other ones naturally anyway, but just concentrate on that. So I say this because be patient in building out your patient base, because that is going to be your biggest advantage. Because going out there and just trying to catch butterflies, that is extremely transactional. That is one and done patients you're not going to see again. And that is going to be very frustrating. So building a garden, attracting them there, you're building relationship-based practice where people will come back, they will treatment plan, they will write you great testimonials, they'll refer to their friends, which will be other ideal patients that you want, and you'll begin to grow organically, and those marketing budgets will drastically decrease. When we talk about, being able to, at the end of year 1, be where you'd be at the end of year 2 or year 3, this is how you do it. Because you're going to, by month 6, you're going to have these great people coming back in, bringing more of their friends. Another example, think back to dating. What would be more preferable? Attracting the type of people that are equally attracted to you, or chasing after people that, may never call you back? So think more about attracting the right people versus chasing down the wrong ones. So with our clients, I'd mentioned this earlier, we have a process. We call it the leadership brand. And again, you don't have to come to us for this, but I at least want you to think through this as we're going through this podcast. But we've, through trial and error throughout the years, a lot with different marketing campaigns, we found that alignment that I talked about earlier between your vision as a leader, the culture that you want to develop for your team, and the brand your community connects with is the best way to attract those types of patients that you want in your practice. Branding creates that alignment that leads to that attraction. So the right types of team members come in and patients. Because I'll tell you, as you build out, and those of you that have owned dental practices before, good and well, the best recruiters and the best marketers are down the hall. Your people are your best recruiters and your patients are your best marketers. And it costs a lot less when you've established great vision, great culture, and a great brand. So if you want to spend less on marketing, you want to spend less money on recruiting, which are generally the biggest expenses, this is what you do. So I want to reiterate back to, we live in that economy now where it's not about who you are or what you do. It's about how you make somebody feel. Remember that quote by Maya Angelou: people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. That's good or bad, right? So don't waste your time on attracting the wrong people. So that's branding. Your vision as a leader is how you feel you can bring to your business, that vision you're going to bring to your business. Then there's excellent leadership is what brings positive feelings and outcomes for your staff, and how your staff makes your patients feel is what those patients are going to talk about. And those positive feelings your patients have, that's what kind of nurtures your community and brings in future patients. That's all branding, and all of that must be aligned. So that's why I always suggest starting with a leadership brand. It can be done way ahead of time, because that's also crucial in thinking about every aspect of building out your practice. Because you may decide, wait a minute, I want to lay this office out different based upon this group of people that is my ideal patient. So what this does, just as one final thought before we move on to episode 4 here, is it creates depth. So a lot of people that are just out there only doing, Google ads and only out there, thinking about their services, that's what's called width marketing. I'm more about depth marketing. Branding is depth. Width is more marketing. So you're going to build relationships and you are going to stimulate rapid growth with the types of patients that you want to work with. So we're going to continue this limited series podcast, episode 4. This is where we're going to start thinking about the blueprint of your practice. So again, if you haven't yet, go and download, look in the show notes. Also go to the startup section on venturepractices.com, download that workbook, and I promise you to be a great guide to complement what you're doing. So see you in episode 4.